the Psalmist, Psalms 106. He reminds us about ourselves and humanity, and he uses the example of the children of Israel as they went into the promised land, and they had had great victory at the crossing of the Red Sea. They'd seen the hand of God move in a miraculous way, and they rejoiced, the scripture says. They rejoiced over this. They were happy until the next situation arose, and then they weren't so happy. And then they began to complain to God about God's failure. And I said, oh my. But then it says, but they lusted exceedingly in the wilderness and tempted God in the desert. Now, you look at the whole series of circumstances here. The fact that they saw God work in the miraculous in the crossing of the Red Sea, and then the fact that they rejoiced and they praised God, and then they began to look away because they saw obstacles in front of them, and they began to complain, and they began to doubt the ability of God to sustain that multitude out there in that wilderness. But see, in this case, it went from bad to worse. Not only did they lose their faith in God, not only did they fail to trust in God, it says they began to lust after things in the wilderness exceedingly, it says, exceedingly. And they tempted God. You see, I don't think there's anything that breaks my heart more than when I know a Christian believer that was in the church, serving in the church, had seen the hand of God move in their lives and their families, and they rejoiced and they gave God praise for the wondrous, miraculous things that he had done. And then something happens. I never quite understood it. Next thing you know, they're very sparse in their church attendance. And they stop supporting the church. And then things begins to digress from there. And if they were a person before they came into faith and they had some bad habits, they often will have the tendency to go back to those same things that was destroying them in the past and that will destroy them in the future, because they've just lost their way. And they've lost their faith. They've lost their ability to believe and trust God. And now they've turned themselves over to the elements of the evil of this world. And it's just heartbreaking to me. And I might be talking to you today, my friend. And if that's the case, I would like to encourage you to just have a conversation with God. Just lay it all out. Just talk to him about it. And ask him if he would restore you to that place that you were when you walked in faith and you praised God for his goodness. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.